diselesaikan by presenters. As we discussed before, on the keynote speech now, we may or may not be overwhelmed by rapid changes in information and communication technologies, and we also may face some ethical dilemmas about to what extent we should embrace the changes in information communication technologies. Sometimes we are still learning one new technology, and then the newer technology coming. So it's always there has been always changes all the time. May feel left behind, but sometimes we may think we don't really need a lot of changes in our life. We maintain our traditional values at the same time. We also follow the new trend and information technologies. Without further ado, let me introduce you to our first presenter, Professor Rusfa Hashim from IAUN. The floor is yours.
Terus bercakap. Assalamualaikum.
Presenter will present for 10 minutes, then after 5 presentation we will have Q&A. Professor Rusfa, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Okay. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, dengar ya?
Yes.
Brothers and gentlemen, my paper titled Increasing Government Publication for Academic Research, a case study for government document usage at Dhaka University Library. Actually, I conducted this research not too long after I was asked by my head of department to start teaching a new subject in our department. It is on government or the government official documents, government publication. So I've gone to the course online. I look at the title for each week, and I also look at the content, the references, and I noticed that I need to do something before I start teaching that course. What I noticed is that there are certain textbooks to teach government document, government publication, but most of the textbooks available in the market, they're focusing on government document. They're sample. They're using government publication from the UK, the US, Australia, the Commonwealth countries, and so difficult to know the official documents of government publication from Islamic countries, because it is the philosophy of IIUM that every subject or every courses that we teach, we must embed or we must include the element of Islamic perspective. So I've started collecting information on government publication from Malaysia, from Thailand, from Brunei, even from Indonesia, and another country that I've already I went to Bangladesh before COVID, and I started the material, and I was lucky that there was a student from Bangladesh come to our department to have to go through the internship. So I asked for his help to get more information from Bangladesh official document published by the government. So today I'm going to present my finding. What I would like to know is what are documents, what are publications published by the Bangladeshi government. Then I would like to know, out of all the published government published in Bangladesh. What are the documents there in the Dhaka library collection? Then I contacted the senior librarian at Dhaka to ask for some information. I asked them how they develop the document, how they develop the collection on official publication. What are the, would like to know, then who are among the users they use the document, the official publication, from which faculty, from which background, and what are the documents that popular by the users in the campus. So from the research that I conducted, we found that one of concern of Dhaka University Library is Bangladesh Gazette. Is a weekly publication. This weekly publication is a vital source of information on legislative and administrative matters in the nation government. It provides researchers and policymakers with access to political changes, notification, and official announcement. It is preservation, ensures transparency, accountability, and the opportunity for citizens to remain informed on the process. Other than this, the other application in the university library collection, annual reports and statistical report that offer deep insight into the country's economic, social, and political progress. This document is another important material researchers in the university. The next is in the collection map of certain aspects of the countries. So they are access this map powers researchers to address contemporary challenges and contribute to the sustainable future of Bangladesh. Then the important material of publication, official publication, the parliamentary speeches represent the proof of national political discourse and decision process. In Malaysia, we know this as the Parliament Answer. These documents allow individuals to delve into the debates, the discussion, and decision that have shaped the country's legislative landscape. These are critical resource for understanding the evolution of policies and laws over time. Other materials are Bangladesh and Bangladesh environmental strategy and its commitment to sustainable development and environmental stewardship of the nation. These documents maps for addressing the challenges of climate change, water resource management, and environmental conservation. Researchers and policymakers benefit greatly from having access to these valuable resources. Other than that, they have Bangladesh 5-year plan and also Bangladesh that offer comprehensive view of the nation's economic development, priorities, and challenges. These documents are instrumental in shaping the country's economic policies and investment. And the library's role in safeguarding them underscore its commitment to supporting informed decision making and fostering economic growth. And the library collection of government publication, historical event records, UGC reports, population census report, and statistical yearbook further enrich the offerings. All these provide unique insights into the historical, cultural, and aspect of the nation, and they offer researchers a broader context for understanding the evolution of society and country's development. Okay. How many more minutes? Okay. I've shown so many us. So to answer that question, the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences at the forefront of academic and studies in constant demand for official material such as sociology, for official Faculty of Law believe heavily on government as well. The scholars often use Bangladesh Gazette as primary source to stay updated on legislative changes in judgment. Within the Faculty of Arts, official documents are vital to exploring the culture, historical increase in Bangladesh. And another faculty is faculty science. Bangladesh and understand expression and strategies for cultural advancement. I go to the conclusion. The meticulous process of procuring this official document publication standard as the backdrop upon the library's comprehensive repository has been meticulous built. This method is more than a routine task. It's an instrumental pursuit in acquiring a rich and multifaceted spectrum of critical documents that encapsulate the essence of governance, policy, and history of Bangladesh. The study is testament to the enduring importance of knowledge creation, access, and dissemination in a world that grows ever more interconnected. These materials symbolize the shared history and expression of the nation. They reflect the past, inform the present, inspire the future. This, okay, I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Musbashin, for your presentation. We are turning to our second presenter, Professor Raskin Osman from IIUN. The floor is yours. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. From Basuki, from Ispan, saudara properti, dan Minda, seluruh moderator. So, alhamdulillah, jazakumullah khair for having this and also for listening to what I said. So I have shared my screen. I hope that you can see it. Yes, okay. So alhamdulillah, actually we decided the topic of collaborative leadership in data science and analytics. Because now our students from the Department of Library and Information Science can go into data science and analytics. So that means another future for the domain of library and information science, another new domain is the incorporation of artificial intelligence, library, information science, and library science. So that's why I took up this idea, because I myself like to do more data science, but considering my age, I express also to encourage the young minds to venture into this. So those are my thoughts. I think just for credentials. Okay, so actually, collaborative data science and analytics plays an important role, especially in decision making,
when trustworthy ranks the highest in a reputation. So we need that. There will be several questions when we make decisions. So, for example, when information professionals or librarian presented or anyone you presented a case, then we have many questions as we go along before coming to the final decision. Okay? So, for example, why didn't we involve a certain unit? Okay? Why is it this data is missing? Okay? So we often ask that question. And then the next question will be, has that data been existing? Okay? Is there such a data? Okay? And then if let's say we supervise a PhD student, we ask the PhD student to collect the data that is absent. Okay? So that means we should not leave our PhD student to just be in the academic world, just in the library, reviewing data that has been there for years, without trying to fill in the gap in the data. Maybe the data is already too old, okay, so we need to collect recent data. So these are the questions as we go along. Even as simple as it has to decide whether or not to still subscribe to a particular journal, to still buy a particular journal when the usage has been declined. So as simple as that, but this is beyond. This is beyond. For example, the national scientific productivity at the country level, at Malaysian level or Indonesian level, we need collaborative effort and we need collaborative leadership. We cannot just present it, for annual increment in salary, annual raise. But actually, we need to have beyond that. We need to show how much our country has contributed to science and technology, benchmark or index of the world. So if you look at the diagram here, we have the one that have many bubbles there or circles there. Those are insights. Everyone has insights, especially in social science. We have many experiences. Everything with one goes into information. And then we have collective intelligence when coming into problem solving. And then we even have validated metrics. So that means in research, in academic, we have credentials. Okay, we have validation. So all those are there. Okay? And then we have data-backed evaluation. So that means, like this morning, Prof. Fauzan mentioned about the fake news and Mubawah, etc. So, but in the library, we always use data to back up evaluations. Usage data, use data, to predict the next or the coming picture of using the resources. And then we should now participate in the culture of data first culture. So whenever we speak, data first. Okay, so maybe this is difficult to be done by politicians, especially we already had our elections, but Indonesia is coming soon, so I'm not sure about this situation here, but we wish the political campaigns is always data first culture. Wherever in the world, in the United States, etc., after the case of Trump, right, he elected as the American president. So, but that's too far from us. So let's look at something which is very near to us. Our institutions, our working place, our research, the committee members, our management, top middle management. So operational management. So it has to be data first culture. Okay. So here down there, actually we need to have three experts. First, the problem experts, the data experts, and the implementation experts. Sometimes even the problem stage is already an issue. So each circle of this expert must establish their own best practices under leadership style. Okay? So the output there is the trustworthy. So when a person establishes trustworthy through a
Recording in progress.
through a collaborative leadership. Okay, so we can have collaborative collaborative knowledge discovery analytics. Okay, I will give them a moment and explain. Is it okay? All right. All right. All right.
And then the action taking. Okay, the issues now is that when we have the data, the sense making actually is not as easily as it seems. Okay, it is without sufficient data and analysis. Okay, so that's why sometimes it's quite difficult when we have our manager reporting to us, you know, and then we question him or her. So it's not proper. It's like, you know, somehow there's a doubt. But actually in the first place, okay, the manager should have done a presentation full of data, full of analysis. Okay, so it's not just merely a mere meeting, okay, and we just rely on the words. And then decision making without inclusive sense making. The sense making is partial. And then at the same time, we took action without conclusive decision making. So that's why the objective of this paper is to explore the collaborative leadership in data science and analytics. So this is selected the top 10 real-world data science case studies from Turing. And then I'm showing here today just 3 cases. So the first one, predictive maintenance in manufacturing. This is a successful case of collaborative leadership. So for example, number A, if you can have a look, the needs for a maintenance before a breakdown occurs. So the issue, the problem expert is the breakdown, identify the breakdown, define the breakdown, and then after that, okay, the data, etc. Okay, and then after that, the decision making based on the needs. So how to schedule the maintenance. Okay, I give you the basic one as an example. And then the last one, analyze transaction data to detect and prevent fraudulent transactions in real time. Okay, this is again as a result of the collaborative leadership. So actually there's a confusion between senior members versus experienced members. Senior members doesn't mean they are experienced. And then we have to go for experts versus expertise. We are looking for experts or expertise. And then sense making or action taking. And then exclusive decision making only at the top or some group of people, the elite, or is it conclusive decision making? My conclusion is that collaborative leadership must foresee the expected collaborative discovery. It has to be discovery collaboratively to guide the collaborative data collections, analysis, and insights. And then the tools must be reviewed so that it can enable collaborative leadership. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you very much, Professor Roslina Usman. Please allow me to interrupt your presentation when you are running out of time. So probably 3 minutes before you're running out of time, I will let you know. I'm sorry for that. And we are turning to our third presenter, Professor Indah Kurnianingsih from Yarsi University. The floor is yours.
Mohon maaf.
Tes, kedengeran nggak ya? Oh ya, oke.
Ya, yang loud.
Terima kasih
Bu Moderator. Sebelumnya mohon maaf saya belum profesor ini. Dan melangkahi Prof. Sulis nanti. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih atas kesempatan yang telah diberikan pada siang hari ini untuk menyampaikan dua riset penelitian terkait dengan LIS, bidang LIS. Izin share screen. Oke. Okay. The first research that I will present entitled Analysis of Literature Growth in the Field of Library and Information Science based on citation analysis of scientific works in the ICRO Journal of Libraries and Information for the period 2014 and 2022. And the authors of this team consist of I am Indah Kuranisi from Library and Information Science Program Universitas Yarsi, and Rini Nur Apriliani and Rosini. The background of this research is in 2023, the Scientific Journal Information System is called SINTA, which is a database managed by the Ministry of Research, Technology, and Higher Education of the Republic of Indonesia, declared that ICRO Journal as a journal in the top 10 journal by impact in the field of library science and information. This research is needed to examine the development of the field of the library and information science through trends and the growth of the literature in the field of library and information science. And the purpose of this research is to determine the citation pattern, level of recurrency, and level of obsolescence of literature in the ICRO Journal from 2014 to 2023. This method in this research is bibliometric using citation method analysis. And the object of this research is the entire bibliography in the ICRO Journal from 2014 and 2022, totaling 144 articles and 1,388 citation. The research step was carried out by processing and grouping the data of all ICRO Journal articles based on the year and volume of that year. Then we calculate the half-life and obsolescence the literature using literature half-life analysis. And the research stage is done by we download all ICRO Journal article in the website and grouping article based on the year and volume, and create a worksheet in the Excel containing year of literature, types of literature, and we calculate average half-life and literature obsolescence. From the results show that from 2014 to 218, books were the most cited type of the literature, with 327 citation, and then followed by article with 158 citation, and the other 24.1%. Meanwhile, from 219 to 222, articles were the most cited literature with 341 citation, and books with 283 citation. And the other results show that the average percentage of literature update level from 2014 to 2022 is 51.9%, while the obsolescence rate is 49.1%. And the highest level of obsolescence occurred in 2015, with 78% of citation being obsolete and 22% being current. The lowest obsolescence rate occurred in 2019, with 44% of citation being obsolete and 56.7% being current. And this is the result, the level of obsolescence of literature as indicated by the average half-life of the Iqra journal from 2015 and 2022 is 8.3 years. So we conclude that there is a change in the type of literature cited in the last 5 years, namely in the previous 5 years, books were the most cited type, changing into the most cited journal in the 2014 and 2022 years. This shows that the level of currency in Iqra journal has increased in the last 5 years. And the average half-life obtained is 8.3 years. This shows that the age of the literature used in the Iqra journal, which is 8 and 3 years, I mean, and it can be said a level of currency of reference source is accordance with the provision of the Ministry of Education and Culture of the Republic Indonesia, which state the reference sources are not more than 10 years old. But I think it is necessary to collaborate with other authors from other fields to accelerate the growth of literature in the field of library and information science. Thank you. And the next is my second presentation. Okay, thank you, Ibu Moderator. Wait. Okay, this is the second title that I will present, Comparative Study of Student Perception and Interest in the Career Opportunities for Graduates of the Library and Information Science Study Program at 3 universities in Indonesia. And the member of author consists of I am Indah Kurnanisi and my student Salsabila Firdausyah Ramadhani and my colleague Heri Samtani from LIS Universitas Yarsi. And the second, Margareta Aulia Rahman from Library and Information Science Program, Universitas Indonesia. And the third, Siti Mariam from Library and Information Science Program, Universitas Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah. And the background of this research, the increasingly rapid development of technology and information also positively impact the development of career opportunities in the library and information field. LIS Study Program graduates face the challenge of ensuring that graduates have qualification that suit the needs of the current job market. In Indonesia, the Library and Information Science Study Program are under different faculties. These differences in the faculty that oversee the LIS Study Program then become our consideration for analyzing the disparities in the perception and interest of LIS students in the 3 universities. There is the research result of a scientific article entitled The Employment Landscape and IELTS Education in Pakistan, Challenge and Prospect in 2021, were several challenges faced by LIS graduates in Pakistan. The professionals with knowledge and skills IT from computer science, information system design, and software developer will become the main competitors for library and information science study program graduates because the extraordinary impact of the ICT has changed the function and work patterns of organization. This is written by Malik and Amin, 2021. The purpose of this research to compare the perception and interest of library and information study program students from 3 universities, YRC, Universitas Indonesia, and UIN Syarif Hidayatullah, Jakarta. The research method used quantitative with comparative descriptive design. The research population was an active student from LIS program at ERC, Universitas Indonesia, and UIN Syarif Hidayatullah. And data collection was carried out using a questionnaire using a purposive sampling technique. The results showed that majority of students from the 3 universities have a good perception on the LIS study program on their respective campus. It's supported by the statement, studying at the LIS study program can improve interpersonal skills, has promising employment prospect, adequate facilities, and competent lecturers, and adequate partners. Regarding the encouragement of interest in the career of this field, first, most ERC university students feel encouraged by the lecture material. But most of students at the University of Indonesia and UIN Syarif Hidayatullah felt encouraged by internship or PKL activities. And another result is most University of Indonesia students who are less interested in becoming, we call pustakawan ahli, and the librarian instructor. Overall, the career most in demand at the 3 universities is information specialist, while the less popular profession are expert librarian and librarian instructor. This is the table. And from the result, we can conclude that career interest in the LIS field are increasingly varied along with the development in information technology, as can be seen from several new career opportunities that are starting to become popular, including knowledge management specialists and data analysis. And the most interest career opportunity as a student in the 3 university is information specialist. Thank you for this opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Ibu Indah Kurnianingsih, for your very time efficient presentation. You had 2 presentations, you did it really well. Let's turn to our last presenter for the first session. Last but not least, presenter, Pak. I don't know whether you are already professor or not. Probably it's better for me to say, to call you professor. Professor Albertus Pramutin Narendra from the Department of Library and Information Science, Satya Wacana Christian University Salatiga, Gunung Kidul Regency Library and Archive Service. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I'm not yet a professor until this time, so I won't afford to get it on the several years for the next. Thank you. I will present about my little research. I have to do with one friend in Gunung Kidul Library, public library, and my title is Knowledge Management for Community Learning Expansion in Gunung Kidul Public Libraries in Yogyakarta. I am Miss Albertus Pramutin Narendra. I am a lecturer in Satya Wacana Christian University Salatiga, and my friend is Agung Nugraha, SIP. He is a librarian at Gunung Kidul Public Libraries Yogyakarta. Okay, thank you. The abstract is maybe can skip Miss the abstract. So the introduction is. Yeah, knowledge management is one of the important aspects for organization to manage organization knowledge. According Aswina and Tamara Asalim, Yusuf in Nikmatul Husna say at JUS that knowledge management is a process of planning and controlling the performance of activities regarding the formation of knowledge process, namely process that help an organization or institution in obtaining, selecting, disseminating what is obtained. A public library is a place or location that collection of books, printed materials, and the other records for the benefit of the general public. Anyone can visit a public library regardless of ethnicity, race, religion, gender, etc. Public libraries can also be interpreted as educational institution for the general public by providing various kinds of scientific contribution, especially is local content in this field and culture and technological information to educate and improve and obtaining knowledge for the wider community. This research I'm read before and maybe I studied from my friends is Mr. Ronnie Rodin. He is writing about the knowledge management in the universities, and the authors I'm reading from Mr. Tri Septiantono about tacit knowledge means until he explained about the explicit knowledge. So I'm read from Sharon Tang. He gives an example of the implementation of knowledge management in public libraries. The National Library for Singapore has implemented several knowledge management initiatives in recent years and continues to look for ways to excellent in customer service and information provision. They identify three categories that value proposition tend to fall into. The one is customer intimacy, the second is product to market advantage, and the third is operational excellence. This research I'm used the methodology descriptive qualitative research. Data collection techniques will carry out using interviews, observation, and documentation. An interview is question and answer process between an interviewer and an informant, which aims to obtain in-depth individual knowledge. The interview technique used in this research is a semi-structured interview. Interviews we conducted explain the topic and objectives of the research, which was carried out on 15 until 21 October 1993. Observation we carry out observing the expression, behavior of information, and documentation in the field. Documentation is process of collecting data in the field using photo, record, sound, file, text, and especially I want interview with Mr. Agung Wibawa from Public Libraries Gunung Kidul.
Ya,
The finding an archive as service for those vacancy regional regulation number 7 of 2016 concern the formation and structure of Gunung Kidul Regency Regional Apparatus as most recently amended by Gunung Kidul Regency Regional Regulation number 3 of 2022. The position, organizational structure, duties, function, and work procedure are regulated in Gunung Kidul Regions Regulation number 120 of 2021 concern position, organization, structure, duties, function, and work procedure of the Public Library of Gunung Kidul. To date, the Public Libraries of Gunung Kidul Regency has made regulation as a form of explicit knowledge, namely Gunung Kidul Regency Regional Regulation number 3 of 2022 concerning library operation, Gunung Kidul Region Regulation number 45 of 2018 concerning reading corners, and SOP in the library sector. There are 10 in 2023. 2 more SOP will be added regarding Sajisaka book grants and library assistance. Implementation the knowledge management at the Gunung Kidul Yogyakarta Library and Archive Service or Gunung Kidul Public Library. The first is developing the Gunung Kidul Corner collecting through collaborating with local Gunung Kidul writers, which currently has 123 titles. In 2022, librarian and the local community of Gunung Kidul also succeed in turning tacit knowledge into explicit knowledge, including a poetry anthology with the title Reading the Universe, as well as an anthology with the theme environmental literacy and community-based sustainable development. The third is public libraries will again publish handwritten books, manuscript made by the people of Gunung Kidul in the Freedom to Read program. In October 2003, we will publish a book about the unique ways of the Gunung Kidul collection in the form of tourist attraction in the Gunung Kidul. The fourth is the Library of Gunung Kidul Regency collaborates with the National Library of the Republic of Indonesia in the National Library Literacy Incubator Program to organize workshop and writing competition about culture and arts in Gunung Kidul. Number 5 is the Public Library of Gunung Kidul create the Gunung Kidul Encyclopedia with the term "Myth becomes ethos," which contains local Gunung Kidul wisdom. The 6th is maybe next, yeah. Yes, the 6th is library as a public library Gunung Kidul can also publish profile of village libraries, school communities, service agencies, and place of worship as a result of visit to the library, and etc. My conclusion is, conclusion. My conclusion is the basic knowledge of librarian at the Gunung Kidul Yogyakarta Public Libraries has been pioneered and developed into explicit knowledge. Those libraries need to increasingly increase various local wisdom in society that have not been written down to be expressed in writing and media so that local wisdom is preserved throughout time. The process of implementing knowledge management at Gunung Kidul Public Libraries will continue to develop so that various existing local knowledge can be well documented as a learning resource for the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pak Pramukti. Before we turn to our online speakers, I give you opportunities for Q&A. Is there any question for one of 5 presenters? No? With the second session. Okay. I personally actually always have question because we as educators and also probably librarians or employees in universities in Indonesia particularly, we try to develop our libraries as best as we can, like digitally or even physically. We develop a lot of, we construct a lot of new buildings and so on and so forth. But my question is, do we develop our reading culture? I'm not sure about that. I mean, we try our best to develop our libraries, but I'm not sure we already have done a lot of efforts to develop our reading culture. I don't know about Malaysia, but I think Indonesians don't really have very good reading culture. Do you want to share your Malaysian experience about your reading culture or something relating to that?
Jazakallah khair to the moderator for asking this question. Actually, we do have an issue, so that's why the National Library of Malaysia started the campaign for many years now to inculcate the culture of reading. Okay, and then we have also the idea of human library, where authors come to the library and they, especially when they have a book, because the book comes from their own heart, okay, and so they talk about their own experiences as reflected in the book, and they have more audience. I mean, physical we can see, because the readers we can't see, because when we have the book in the library, they come borrow, and then we just based on that usage data, borrowing data. But the real understanding or listening to the book, the content of the book, is not known, right? It's not known except one academic to another academic through citation analysis, right? So therefore we have that program as well. But right now, I mean, during the COVID-19, the lockdown, we campaign, so that's why we have every book possibly be digitized and also have an e-book. And in fact, we have Prof. Ruswa as well, the former director for the IUM Press. And then now we are going from having not just reading, but also being clever, okay, being intellectual. So we say the budaya memandaikan umat. So we have NGO like Abim Wadah. So they always give lecture and then they go back to the original source of the idea. Of course, after Quran and Hadith, so they went back and then especially introducing scholars. So Alhamdulillah, even today, we have our own Prime Minister has knowledge sessions with some of the institutions and some selected publics, group by group by group. So really, he has been introducing words, okay, coming from our Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka, and let the people think about it. And Alhamdulillah, there is a positive indicator that our Malaysians started to read, but it's only like 15 minutes, 30 minutes. So you need to somehow get the current authors like our doctor today here, I forgot his name. So he was, writing his book in 5 years and then putting it in a format that can break through segments. So that's what we have done. So I don't know, maybe Prof. Ruswa want to say something as well.
Baik, mohon izin saya dalam bahasa Indonesia supaya lebih mudah. Jadi kalau dari kami, kemarin kami juga dalam 2 tahun ini saya kalau lebih suka melihat perpustakaan umum ya. Jadi saya itu kok kemudian merasa untuk sebenarnya di Indonesia itu juga sangat atraktif ya dengan perpustakaan. Di 2 tahun terakhir ini saya melihat di Gunung Kidul terutama itu mereka mempunyai banyak langkah yang dilakukan ya. Maka saya mau dalam penelitian saya ini saya fokuskan ke Gunung Kidul karena saya melihat bahwa di kota ini itu selain daerah tujuan wisata kelas 1 di Indonesia, di Yogyakarta dengan pantai-pantai yang bagus, tapi mereka juga bisa memanfaatkan situasi itu untuk mengembangkan minat baca begitu. Mbak ya. Jadi yang saya lihat usaha yang dilakukan oleh teman saya ini Pak Agung ini itu dengan kepala dinasnya itu mereka mengajak para siswa itu nonton film bareng ya Mbak. Nah anak-anak SD itu diajak nonton film bareng di sebuah ruangan. Nah, kemudian setelah acara nonton film bareng itu mereka diberi makanan ya pokoknya lengkap lah itu. Kemudian mereka juga dikepung dengan buku ya. Jadi di samping-samping itu ada buku-buku yang disediakan di sana dan mereka kemudian diminta untuk membaca dan menceritakan kembali apa yang sudah dia baca itu seperti itu. Itu semuanya berlaku di seluruh sekolah-sekolah di Gunung Kidul begitu. Jadi di sekolah-sekolah dasar, kemudian di SMP dan SMA mereka punya program seperti itu dan tiap hari sibuk pustakawannya itu. Nah, kemudian yang kedua mereka mengembangkan namanya TPBIS ya, transformasi perpustakaan berbasis inklusi sosial yang itu miliknya Perpusnas ya Mbak ya. Dan di Gunung Kidul itu merupakan salah satu contoh ya. Jadi mereka sering memberikan pelatihan, mereplikasi. Nah, mereplikasi. Jadi dari program Perpusnas itu kemudian direplikasi di masing-masing kelurahan dan dusun-dusun seperti itu. Memang dulu dibiayai oleh pemerintah, tapi sekarang mereka inisiatif sendiri, begitu Mbak, mengembangkan itu dan harus ada komitmen dari Pak Lurahnya mengembangkan perpustakaan sampai kepada sektor ibu-ibu, bapak-bapak, anak-anak seperti itu untuk giat membaca. Jadi dua itu terima kasih sekali.
Thank you so much, Professor Roslina, for sharing the Malaysian experience and Pak Pramukti for sharing your experience in Yogyakarta and probably in Salatiga too, right? Okay, we are turning to our online presenter. Are they available online now, Bu Indah? All the presenters are available online. We will have Nita Ismayati, Elfitri Erza, Professor Sulistyo Basuki. So everybody is available now? Okay, our first presenter will be Nita Ismayati. Are you available online, Bu Nita?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you.
You have 10 minutes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good afternoon, dear professors, especially Professor Roslina from IIUM. How are you, Prof? And Professor Sulistyo Basuki. Sehat-sehat, Prof.
God's
Good
willing.
afternoon, all of my colleagues. Okay, before I give my presentation, let me introduce myself and my team members. My name is Nita Ismayati. I'm from Universitas Yarsi Jakarta, and now as a PhD student of University Teknologi Mara. My team members are Agus Rifai, Indah Kurnianingsih from Universitas Yarsi, and Herianto, also Taufik Asmianto from APTP. This research was conducted collaboratively between Universitas Yarsi and APTP, Asosiasi Penyelenggara Pendidikan Tinggi Ilmu Perpustakaan dan Informasi Indonesia. Okay, I'll begin by sharing the first slide, the background research. As we know that Indonesian government asked to the all of higher education in Indonesia to implement the new curriculum named MBKM curriculum, Merdeka Belajar Kampus Merdeka, or maybe in English we call it Freedom of Learning. And since 2018, the MBKM curriculum has been implemented in all of higher education in Indonesia. The MBKM curriculum aims to allow university graduates to compete globally, to have a career in the international world. And the curriculum plays an important role in making competent graduates, including graduates of library and information science study program. The objective of this research is to evaluate the competency standard preparation by library and information science department bachelor degree in Indonesia. Research methods use quantitative based survey. Population was the library and information science bachelor degree, and the number of samples is 25 study programs. Data collection was a questionnaire. Analyzed data use a descriptive analysis. Let's take a look at a profile of respondent based on type of college. 32% were private university and 68% were public university. And based on the location, majority in Java Island, next Sumatra Island, others in Kalimantan, Sulawesi, and Nusa Tenggara. Referring to the respondents' answers, in preparing the competency standard, all respondents have referred to the SKKNI, Indonesia National Work Competency Standards. It means that the minimum standards of national working competencies have been integrated in the LIS curriculum. And these graduates with the MBKM curriculum have minimum competencies at the national level. However, the MBKM curriculum aims to allow graduates to compete globally, to have a career in the international world. And according to the respondents' answer in preparing the curriculum, only 36% refer to the internationalist education, and only 32% refer to the International Library Association. It means that the majority of MBKM curriculum list graduates do not have global competencies. According to the United Nations, the term competency defined as a combination of skills, attributes, and behaviors that are directly related to successful performance on the job. And APTP, yeah, APTP as the Indonesian Association of Higher Education for LIS had issued LIS graduate competencies for bachelor degree. First, 2018, and second, 2022 as general competency standard. For the first competencies, mampu mengelola layanan informasi di perpustakaan, able in managing information services at library and other information institution to fulfill the user needs according to the development and information and communication technology. To achieve these competencies, its LIS department can refer to the international competencies, yeah, according to the Permendikbud Ristek nomor 53 tahun 2023. And one of the international standard that can be used to achieve these competencies is from IFLA guidelines for professional library and information science. IFLA provided the subject matters. Let's take a look at the screen. To achieve this ability in managing information, for example, to achieve this ability in managing information services at library, there are subject matters like needs of users and communities, user-centered, consideration of user communities, knowledge of information seeking behavior, and the others. And each LIS department can make the learning outcome, use these subject matters. For example, to adopt these subject matters, LIS department can make a learning outcome, mampu mendapatkan kebutuhan dari pengguna perpustakaan.
You have 2 more minutes, Bu Nitsa.
Halo? Ya?
You have 2 more minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay. And next, for example, for the second competencies for APTP, able in managing information, which methods according to the development and technology, IFLA provided subject matters to achieve this competency, and each of LIS department can make the learning outcome like at this screen. And also for the third competencies, IFLA provided the subject matters like this. Okay. For the last competency from the APTP, the subject matters provided IFLA like theoretical frameworks, design, method, research, ethics, and LIS department can make learning outcome such like students are expected to be able to conduct research by applying one or more research methods. This is just example. Or student able to carry out qualitative analysis and draw conclusion. This learning outcome use subject matters from the IFLA to achieve these competencies from the association APTP. Okay. Then the conclusion, as mentioned above, the majority of undergraduate LIS departments in Indonesia have not yet referred to an international standard curriculum related to the graduation competencies. And the second, graduates of LIS department with MBKM curriculum may not yet have the competencies required by international competencies. And third, subject matters to achieve competencies issued by FTP should refer to the International Library Association such as IFLA and internationalist education such as LIS. Yeah, thank you. That's all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Bonita, for your presentation. Please accept my apology if I interrupt your presentation when you run out of time. Our next speaker is Professor Sulistyo Basuki from Universitas Indonesia. The floor is yours, Prof.
Yeah, thank you. Wait a minute. Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My paper is in Indonesia, but I try to speak in English. Actually, this paper is discussing about the cause of cataloging and classification in Indonesia. About 1 year ago, there is some discussion of whether it is necessary to this cataloging and classification, classification for undergraduate level. In Indonesia, only one graduate school. That's in Universitas Indonesia. The other 40 is a undergrad program. So why we still teach cataloging and classification? If you are studying in the UK or in Australia or in the States, you don't need to take that course because you can use the national bibliography. Like in UK, you can use British National Bibliography and just copy all the necessary items. And you instead in another state, of course, you can use Library of Congress online catalog. In Australia, you can use Australian catalog. But in Indonesia, we try to teach the student undergraduate level by using Indonesian National Bibliography, and the result is very disappointing. Why? Because first, the Indonesian National Bibliography doesn't cover all publication in Indonesia. Also, we have a Depository Act compulsory, but in fact, many books available in the open market is not covered into our national bibliography. And second, they use ridiculous cataloging rules for Indonesian name, like this one. If the name is Muhammad Yamin, the entry word is Muhammad.
Excuse me, Professor Sulistyo, could you share your screen?
Your screen?
Are you using PowerPoint presentation or not? If you are using your PowerPoint presentation, we don't see your screen, your PowerPoint.
Okay.
But it's okay if you are not using it.
Oh, I use PowerPoint.
Yeah, we don't see it. Could you
Oh.
share it?
Oh.
Share screen.
How? Just let me.
Could you send your PowerPoint to Bu Indah? Bu Indah will show the slides for you. Or to the group. You can send the PowerPoint to the group and we will show the slides from here.
Okay, just a moment. This is a technical problem.
That's okay. We can wait. We still have a lot of time, I guess, ya Bu Indah. We can be flexible sometimes.
Bentar. Oh, seharusnya bentar. Okay. This is share screen. Okay.
Tinggal klik share screen.
Can you see that?
Yes, we could see it now. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So the reason why we could not use our British Indonesian national bibliography, because the coverage is not enough. There are so many books published in open, but not mentioned in our national bibliography. And then academic dissertation is just impossible to get because it was kept at the university. And then there's another rule. This is rather, in my opinion, is rather ridiculous. If your name Muhammad Yamin, then the entry word is Muhammad. If your name is Muhammad Hatta, then entry word is Muhammad. This is rather awkward, rather clumsy. And there's this one like that. Muhammad Salih Pandu, the name, the entry word is Muhammad. Muslimin Bandu, the Muslimin Bandu is under Bandu, and then your name Panguti Bandu is Panguti. All actually they have a family name, but why you put on the first name? That's the reason. Reason one. So when we ask our student why we could use word catalog or Library of Congress online or national, because the cataloging rules are different from us, and they could not find Indonesian name. And then because this is for the undergrad, the subject heading used by our national bibliography is not clear whether it is used for academic libraries or for the school libraries. In the United States, we have you can find Library of Congress subject heading, and the other one is a SIR subject heading, but not in Indonesia. Not Indonesia. That's the reason. And then this is another interesting. Indonesia is the largest Muslim nation in the world. So we actually need a good subject heading on Islam. But in our National Library subject heading, Islam is very few. I compare with Library of Congress subject heading. We just because about four components, while in the Library of Congress there are 16 components. So why it happened? Why it happened? So actually we must make a good subject heading for Islam in Bahasa Indonesia, and it needs time, energy, and financial support. So why? That's the reason why we still teach cataloging and classification for undergraduate level. Because it was still needed in many libraries in Indonesia. I've been visiting about 28 provinces out of 38 provinces in Indonesia, and I visited school libraries, and they don't know how to catalog, and they don't have a subject heading list, and they don't have classification book. So what we can do? So we must produce good teaching for undergraduate level, because they are the future library in Indonesia. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Professor Sulistyo Basuki, for your time efficient presentation despite our technical difficulties. The next presenter is Osob Haid from IIUM. Is he available online? Professor Osob Haid? Did I pronounce his name or her name correctly? See, he's not online, so he's not presenting. I heard from Pak Yono he's not presenting, so we can... Okay, so we skip him. Okay. Professor Osob Haid is not available now, so we are turning to our next speaker, Dr. Nurwaida Binti Rasid from Institut Pendidikan Guru Kampus Perempuan Melayu Melaka. Are you with us, Dr. Nurwaida?
Yes, doctor. I'm here.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Suara saya jelas jelas tak?
Ya, jelas.
Doktor, jelas ya? Baik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih diucapkan kepada yang berusaha, doktor ataupun moderator, dan yang dihormati barisan profesor, doktor, barisan ilmuwan dan sarjana yang dihormati sekalian. InsyaAllah pada hari ini saya, Nurwaina binti Rasid, akan membentangkan satu tajuk kajian yang bertajuk Model Kompetensi Global 6C, satu tinjauan awal dari perspektif Islam, atau dalam bahasa Inggerisnya 6C Global Competency Model, a Preliminary Review from an Islamic Perspective. Ini adalah aturan ataupun flow yang akan saya sampaikan pada hari ini, bermula dengan mengaitkan perkembangan revolusi IR 4.0 diikuti dengan model kompetensi global 6C. Kemudian model tersebut dikaitkan dengan ketamadunan Islam dan juga ayat-ayat Al-Quran yang berkaitan, dan diakhiri dengan kesimpulan dan penutup. Baik, sebagai objektif kajian ini adalah bertujuan untuk meninjau 6 dimensi utama dalam model kompetensi global 6C tersebut melalui perspektif dan pandangan Islam. Metodologi kajian, reka bentuk kajian ini adalah secara kualitatif dengan menggunakan kaedah analisis dokumen dan literatur terhadap kajian-kajian yang lepas yang dilaksanakan bagi pengumpulan data. Baik, seperti mana yang kita ketahui, revolusi industri yang telah bermula sejak era 1700 yang lalu telah mengalami perkembangan yang sangat mendadak sehingga ke hari ini, dari mana revolusi ini merupakan satu bentuk kemajuan dalam peradaban dan ketamadunan manusia telah diperkenalkan oleh Jerman pada 2013, dan ia sememangnya berkait rapat dengan teknologi moden, pengawalan maklumat dan juga komunikasi era moden. Dan IR 4.0 ini menggabungkan pelbagai dimensi dan ianya memberi kesan impak yang sangat hebat dalam pelbagai sektor yang ada di dunia ini, dan sebenarnya dari sektor perkhidmatan pendidikan tidak terkecuali menerima impak yang sangat hebat kesan daripada revolusi industri 4.0 ini. Jadi kalau kita lihat revolusi 4.0 ini sebenarnya ia adalah sejajar dengan perkembangan pendidikan abad ke-21. Dan kalau kita lihat Rasulullah SAW sendiri bersabda yang bermaksud suasana satu zaman yang masanya menjadi singkat, jarak sudah menjadi dekat dan komunikasi pula menjadi rapat. Dan kalau kita lihat dari perspektif Islam itu sendiri, RI 4.0 ini merupakan satu bentuk jihad kepada masyarakat Islam untuk mengembalikan zaman kegemilangan umat Islam dahulu yang telah terbukti hebat mencipta tamadun tersendiri. Baik, kalau kita lihat apa yang saya ingin fokuskan adalah berkaitan dengan kapasiti pedagogi pembelajaran bermakna ataupun the new pedagogies for deep learning ini sebenarnya telah diaplikasikan di Institut Pendidikan Guru di Malaysia, dan ianya seiring dengan program transformasi sekolah ataupun TS25 yang telah ditetapkan oleh Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia. Jadi apa itu kapasiti pedagogi pembelajaran bermakna? Ia adalah suatu kaedah yang dicadangkan bagi memantapkan pedagogi pensyarah bagi pembimbing pelajar dan juga guru sekolah selaras dengan peranan mereka sebagai pembimbing instruksional, dan KPPB ini mencerminkan pendekatan yang berbeza untuk mengajar, belajar dan mentaksir secara holistik di samping menghasilkan perkara yang relevan dengan dunia sekeliling kita, khususnya bagi para pelajar. Dan kalau kita lihat sebenarnya KPPB ini adalah memerlukan usaha pelajar itu untuk mencipta pengetahuan baru di samping menggunakan penguasaan alat digital. Program Deep Learning ini sebenarnya diinspirasikan oleh McEachern, Quinn dan Fudan 2017, namun telah diadaptasi dengan menggunakan acuan IPGM ataupun Institut Pendidikan Guru Malaysia dalam usaha melonjakkan kualiti guru yang ada di Malaysia. Baik, ini adalah elemen-elemen yang ada dalam model kompetensi global 6C itu, iaitu pemikiran kritis, kreativiti, komunikasi, syakhsiah, kewarganegaraan dan juga kolaboratif. Dan ini saya paparkan dimensi yang ada dalam model tersebut, dan perinciannya ini adalah perincian bagi setiap dimensi tersebut, dan saya rasa tidak perlu hurai secara jelas kerana dia memang memaparkan elemen-elemen yang menonjolkan setiap dimensi itu dengan jelas untuk pembangunan ilmu. Jadi dalam kajian saya ini, saya akan mengaitkan bagaimana elemen-elemen dalam model kompetensi ini mempunyai signifikan dan relevan dan diperkukuhkan dengan nilai-nilai yang ada dalam Islam itu sendiri. Pertama, saya bawa bagaimana faktor ketamadunan Islam itu sendiri, di mana ditekankan konsep hablum minallah dan hablum minan nas, iaitu perhubungan antara manusia dan juga perhubungan antara Tuhan iaitu Allah SWT dan juga manusia, di mana dalam faktor-faktor ketamadunan Islam ini asas-asas pembangunan modal insan dari segi aspek penguasaan ilmu iaitu critical thinking dan creativity. Kedua, hasil interaksi positif antara manusia dan alam sekeliling iaitu communication dan citizenship. Dan yang ketiga adalah berkait dengan, saya tidak nampak di situ, iaitu berkait dengan, tidak silap saya, sebentar ya, berkaitan dengan nilai akhlak ataupun karakter dan collaboration. Dan elemen-elemen ataupun faktor-faktor dalam asas pembangunan modal insan dalam ketamadunan Islam ini sebenarnya sememangnya dah ada, dah tercipta pada zaman dahulu, dan sememangnya ia telah diserap masuk ke dalam sistem pendidikan bagi melahirkan pelajar ataupun modal insan yang lebih cemerlang dalam segala genap aspek. Keduanya, saya menganalisis model kompetensi global 6C ini berdasarkan surah Ar-Rahman ayat 4, ayat 1 hingga 4 dan juga surah-surah yang lain, di mana kalau kita lihat dalam surah Ar-Rahman ayat 1 hingga 4, ia adalah berkaitan dengan kompetensi personal, kompetensi pedagogi, kompetensi profesional dan kompetensi sosial, seperti mana ianya selari dengan kajian Norzi et al. 2022. Kalau kita lihat dari segi aspek model kompetensi, karakter dan citizenship, kita dapat lihat dalam surah Ar-Rahman ayat 1, iaitu yang bermaksud Tuhan yang Maha Pemurah serta melimpahkan rahmatnya, dan di sini dilihat bagaimana kalimah Ar-Rahman itu merujuk kepada nama Allah itu sendiri, tetapi diterjemahkan dalam konteks seorang pendidik perlu mempersiapkan diri dengan sifat Ar-Rahman, di mana mempunyai sifat kasih sayang, dapat membina karakter akhlak murid dan juga dapat melahirkan individu dan warga negara yang mempunyai jati diri yang cemerlang. Begitu juga dalam surah Al-Hujurat ayat 13, saya suka highlightkan di mana Allah kata, Inna khalaqnakum min zakarin wa unsa wa ja'alnakum syu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Di situ Allah telah menciptakan kita daripada lelaki dan perempuan, tetapi adalah di mana yang paling bertakwa di sisi Allah, yang semula-mula manusia yang terbaik ataupun yang terbaik di sisi Allah adalah orang yang lebih bertakwa. Ya, begitu juga dalam surah Al-An'am ayat 98, ya. Kemudian diikuti dengan surah Al-Imran, Allah menyatakan bahawa kuntum khairu ummatin ukhrijat linnas ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna 'anil munkar wa tu'minuna billah. Jadi ayat-ayat yang saya ungkapkan ini adalah berkaitan dengan bagaimana pembinaan karakter dan citizenship yang perlu ada dalam diri seseorang. Begitu juga dalam surah Al-Quran dan juga surah At-Taubah ayat 119. Ya,
You have 2 minutes. You have
Baik.
2 minutes.
Baik, okey. Bagi model kompetensi critical thinking dan creativity terdapat dalam surah Ar-Rahman ayat 2, begitu juga dalam surah Al-An'am ayat 50, surah Al-Baqarah ayat 44, surah Al-Hajj ayat kedua dan juga surah Al-An'am ayat 80 dan An-Nisa ayat 82 yang menyatakan bahawa bagaimana kita perlu mempunyai satu sikap pemikiran yang kritis dan kreatif, kerana dalam Al-Quran keseluruhannya dikata afala yatadabbarun, afala yatazakkarun, afala taqilun dan sebagainya. Kemudian dalam elemen collaboration dapat dilihat dalam surah Ar-Rahman ayat 3, dalam surah Al-Maidah ayat 2, dalam surah Al-Fats ayat 29, di mana ketiga ayat ini mengungkaikan bagaimana pentingnya kolaborasi ataupun persefahaman yang patut dijalinkan di antara sama ada sesama Islam ataupun bukan Islam dalam pelbagai aspek kehidupan. Dan yang akhir sekali adalah berkaitan dengan elemen communication, terdapat juga dalam surah Ar-Rahman ayat 4, surah Al-Baqarah ayat 83, surah Al-Fusilat ayat 34 hingga 35 dan surah An-Nahl ayat 125. Jadi perbincangan sebagai perbincangan dan kesimpulan berdasarkan kepada tinjauan awal saya, pelaksanaan model kompetensi Global 6 ini dapat meningkatkan kebolehan guru pelatih menggunakan pengetahuan kandungan untuk mencipta dan menghasilkan pengetahuan baharu agar dapat dimanfaatkan dalam kehidupan sebenar mereka. Hasil kajian dan penelitian merumuskan bahawa pengaplikasian model kompetensi Global 6 ini melalui perspektif Islam dapat menghasilkan natijah yang lebih luas dan selari dengan nilai-nilai murni seperti mana yang dikendaki oleh Al-Quran dan Sunnah. Oleh itu seharusnya model ini dapat diaplikasikan dengan pengamalan dan penghayatan nilai-nilai Islam dalam kehidupan guru-guru pelatih khususnya bagi melahirkan insan guru yang seimbang dan berkualiti di dunia dan juga di akhirat kelak, insya-Allah. Sekian saja pembantangan saya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Bu Dr. Nurwaina. Our last but not least speaker is Ibu Elfitri Erza from Universitas Yarsri. Are you with us, Bu Elfitri Erza?
Yes.
Yeah, the floor is yours. You have 10 minutes.
Ya, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya, baik. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu. Izin saya menyampaikan dalam bahasa ya. Hari ini kami mempresentasikan hasil penelitian yang berjudul Knowledge Sharing at ASEAN Center for Energy or ACE using the SECI model. ASEAN Center of Energy adalah salah satu organisasi non-profit yang berada di Indonesia, di mana merepresentasikan kegiatan energi terbarukan di regional ASEAN terutama. Nah, ASEAN Center of Energy sudah ada di Indonesia sejak tahun 1999, di mana mereka memiliki 5 divisi seperti itu. Yang pertama divisi administrasi, kemudian Plan of Action for Energy Corporation, yang ketiga Policy Research and Analytics, yang keempat Information and Communication Technology, dan yang kelima yaitu dua departemen yang memang dibuat khusus yang merupakan bagian dari kegiatan ASEAN for Energy seperti itu, yaitu Climate Change Energy Project, ASEP, dan yang kedua Policy Research and Analytics atau PRA. Nah, ACE memiliki visi sebagai fasilitator, di mana ini bertujuan untuk melihat atau mengukur pertumbuhan ekonomi dan integrasi di kawasan ASEAN dengan memperakasai dan memfasilitasi kolaborasi multilateral. Multilateral di sini adalah negara-negara ASEAN, serta berkegiatan bersama, berkolektif di bidang energi terbarukan untuk tahun 2023. Nah, salah satu departemen yang melakukan kegiatan atau mengkoordinasi kegiatan manajemen pengetahuan adalah Departemen Information Communication and Technology atau ICT, di mana departemen ini bertugas untuk mengumpulkan, mengelola, memfasilitasi pengetahuan dari staf yang telah mengikuti kegiatan. Jadi ICT ini membuat suatu portal, di mana portal itu dinamakan dengan Activities Library, di mana Activities Library ini dibuat untuk mengumpulkan semua pengetahuan yang ada di dalam organisasi, baik itu yang sudah terdokumentasi atau digunakan juga untuk staf membuat laporan staf yang berkaitan dengan peningkatan pengetahuan, pendidikan, dan pelatihan, seperti itu. Nah, kenapa perlu manajemen pengetahuan di dalam organisasi ACE atau ASEAN Center of Energy? Yang pertama, di dalam di dalam S ini tidak memiliki suatu standarisasi dalam pengelolaan dokumentasi. Sehingga hal ini membuat staf tidak tepat waktu dalam mengunggah dokumentasi. Maksudnya dokumentasi seperti apa? Yang dimaksud dengan dokumentasi ini adalah laporan kegiatan mereka dalam hal pendidikan, pelatihan, dan pengembangan kompetensi seperti itu. Jadi di sana memiliki budaya organisasi di mana setiap staf yang melakukan atau mendapatkan pendidikan atau pelatihan diwajibkan untuk membuatkan laporan kegiatan. Nah, kegiatan laporan ini harus dibuat dan diunggah ke dalam activities library. Namun dalam proses unggahnya mereka tidak memiliki standarisasi untuk pembuatan laporan, sehingga memiliki waktu yang cukup lama untuk membuat laporan tersebut. Nah, karena tidak adanya standarisasi, hal ini membuat dokumentasinya kurang lengkap. Kemudian karena tidak ada standarisasi tersebut, jadinya kurang konsisten dalam mengumpulkan dokumentasi laporan seperti itu, sehingga hal ini berakibat kepada proses knowledge sharing menjadi terhambat. Nah, yang ketiga, ketika seorang staf melakukan pengunduran diri, misalnya dalam suatu kasus gitu ya, seorang staf mengundurkan diri dari S dan dia belum sempat mendokumentasikan pengetahuan yang dia miliki, sehingga siapa yang menduduki posisi yang digantikan gitu ya, akan terjadi permasalahan, tidak ada laporan kegiatan, belum adanya beberapa dokumentasi yang disimpan seperti itu, sehingga membutuhkan waktu yang cukup lama agar staf baru yang menggantikan tersebut untuk mentrace pekerjaan yang lalu-lalu seperti itu. Nah, dalam kegiatan ini dilakukan model SECI, yaitu model socialization, externalization, combination, dan internalization. Penelitian ini sebenarnya dilakukan dengan metode deskriptif kualitatif untuk melihat seberapa besar penggunaan atau proses activities library dalam proses knowledge sharing. Kemudian key informannya adalah Departemen Information and Communication and Technology di ASEAN Center Energy. Apa hasilnya dari riset kami? Yang pertama, dalam proses sosialisasi ada 4 kegiatan yang berkaitan dengan sosialisasi. Yang pertama adalah kegiatan brainstorming session, di mana ini merupakan kegiatan yang dilakukan oleh staf untuk sharing pengalaman, pengetahuan seperti itu, seperti FGD. Lalu yang kedua, staff meeting. Staff meeting itu dilakukan setiap hari Senin pagi jam 9, itu rutin setiap minggunya. Kemudian Thanks God It's Friday, jadi ini adalah meeting yang dilakukan setiap hari Jumat untuk mengevaluasi pekerjaan selama 1 minggu. Apa saja yang sudah dikerjakan, apa kendalanya, bagaimana solusinya. Nah, itu dilakukan setiap hari Jumat setiap minggunya. Kemudian setiap hasil brainstorming, staff meeting, dan Thanks God It's Friday itu di-share melalui email. Lalu yang kedua, untuk externalization, proses ini yang pertama mewajibkan setiap staff untuk membuat laporan kegiatan, baik itu laporan kegiatan bentuk setelah mereka mendapatkan pelatihan, pendidikan, atau setelah mereka melakukan kunjungan gitu ya. Lalu yang kedua, mereka wajib mengunggah report tersebut ke dalam portal Activities Library. Nah, ini salah satu contoh dari kegiatan Meet the Team. Jadi Meet the Team ini salah satu kegiatan di mana staf yang baru mendapatkan gelar gitu ya, gelar gelar pendidikan, diberikan kesempatan untuk sharing bersama dengan staf lainnya.
Ibu, you have 2 minutes.
Oke, thank you. Kemudian yang ketiga, combination. Combination yang pertama, penyebaran pengetahuan. Kemudian portal, Departemen ICT membuat portal yang Activities Library. Kemudian mengutus staf untuk mengikuti kegiatan di luar organisasi, seperti meeting, workshop, seminar, dan training. Untuk yang keempat, internalization. Permasalahan yang kami temukan adalah kesulitan dalam pencarian informasi, mengklasifikasikan pengetahuan, kemudian yang ketiga penerapan pengetahuan berdasarkan kebutuhan. Nah, ini salah satu contoh kegiatan workshop yang dilakukan oleh ASEAN Center of Energy untuk para staff. Berikut ringkasan. Kemudian hambatan apa dalam pelaksanaan knowledge management di S? Yang pertama, mobilitas yang tinggi. Jadi staff yang masuk dan keluar di dalam S itu sangat cepat sekali. Jadi karena lingkupnya sangat besar ASEAN, jadi cukup banyak proyek-proyek yang dihandle oleh tim-tim yang berbeda di beberapa negara seperti itu. Lalu yang kedua, keaktifan dalam melakukan knowledge sharing juga masih harus dipush lagi menggunakan budaya organisasi. Lalu yang ketiga, pemanfaatan pengetahuan yang sudah ada juga sudah maksimal, namun masih di dalam organisasi kecil gitu, misal dalam divisi-divisi tertentu. Yang keempat, kurangnya monitoring, dan yang kelima, tidak adanya standarisasi dalam pendokumentasian laporan atau pembuatan laporan. Berikut referensi. Sekian yang dapat kami sampaikan. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Bu Elfitri Erza. This is the end of our presentation from our four speakers. We still have some time for discussion. Any question for one or four presenters? If there is no question, I will ask a question. Because I saw Professor Sulistyo Basuki. Are you still with us, Professor Sulistyo? He's not here. He's not available anymore. Professor Sulistyo, are you still with us? Nggak dengar ya? Mau ditutup aja? Mau ditutup aja? Yeah, Professor Sulistyo, are you still with us? Could you hear me? I have one simple question. Because you mentioned that you visited 22 provinces in Indonesia. I'm not sure whether you visited universities or libraries in Indonesia. I'm wondering if you could share with us what did you see in those 22 provinces? Do you see a lot of progress in library development or probably library education development? Could you hear me, Professor Sulistyo? He's still available online or not? He's still here, but he's muted. Because we still have 7 minutes, I think, because he's here now, it's interesting if we can get more explanation from his experience and expertise. Yeah, I didn't know him. I just guessed. So it's good to get more from his knowledge and expertise. It's okay if it's not available. We can call the day. He's not here? Nggak ada ya? Okay, any question for other speakers? Is enough? Okay, I think, thank you so much for all the presenters. We learned a lot about, I'm not an expert in library development or library education, but I knew that we really have rapid changes in science and technology that help our library to develop faster than before. We have a lot of facilities and so on and so forth, but I think we will see a lot of more progress in the future. Thank you so much also for all the participants here. We have very good time, presentation and discussion. And before before I close the event, I will ask all of you to take a photo session. With the presenters online or just we are here offline? Okay, thank you so much. This is the end of our session. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ayo ambil foto.
Ayo.
Hitung ya.
Well,
Sorry, for online presenter, could you still be with us because we are going to take a picture or some picture with all of you online and also here offline. Just stay there. Gimana fotonya? Oh. That's okay. Saya nggak ada. Satu, cheers, 1, 2, 3. Saya nggak ada. You know? Okay, thank you.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, have a good day. Udah? Apa? Udah selesai? Ada lagi acara? Udah? Di sana udah selesai? Tinggal acara selanjutnya. Masih ada sesi?
Ayono, apakah sudah selesai? Di room 2?